It's unbelievably weak. I would say, I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
That's President Trump yesterday saying that the ceasefire with Iran is hanging on by a thread after what he called a totally unacceptable response to the U.S.'s peace plan. Tehran reportedly wanted the U.S. to pay war damages, recognize Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, end sanctions, and release blocked assets. The commander-in-chief telling Fox he's considering restarting Project Freedom, the U.S.'s previous effort escorting ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So far, Central Command has redirected 62 ships during the blockade on Iranian ports. Joining me now is Pennsylvania Congressman Dan Meuser. Congressman, it's great to have you.
Maria, it's so great to be with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. So what is going on with this Iran conflict? It's certainly looming over the president's trip now to Beijing, which I'm going to ask you about in a second. How are we going to get out of this war? What's your advice?
Well, you know, this war, this military conflict, however we want to put it, we're the United States. We've got the Gulf nations on our team. We see the Emirates leaving OPEC.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we see Saudi Arabia and others looking to step up and provide oil to China, for instance, which is one reason I think the president's going over to China. It's not confirmed, but it's one of the reasons.
Because he wants China to buy oil from America.
Right. Alternative sources, Venezuela as well.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and once we do that, we cut off what's most important to cutting off with Iran, the terrorist regime of Iran, is their cash. Because, Maria, their cash is king to them and then some, because they use their cash to carry out their jihad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this country's about. They're not about human life. They're not about economic development. They almost could care less about that.
Yeah.
But the oil provides them the cash for them to continue their terrorist activities.
Unbelievable. But the president is walking this balance right now, as you know, right? He wants to end this war. He wants to knock out a potential nuclear terrorist, but at the same time, he's got to keep the economy growing, and he's got to keep oil and gas at reasonable prices going into the midterm elections. So I spoke with Kevin Hassett on Sunday, director of National Economic Council, and he had some very rosy predictions. Watch this. What kind of economic growth number would you expect for 26 and beyond then? Let's assume that we do get out of this war fairly soon. What kind of GDP growth number would you expect for the U.S. economy?
If you look at how fast the capital stock is growing, that's sort of like how much stuff that we make stuff with. It's between 5 and 8% right now. If you divide that by 3, that's about how much GDP growth you get out of just capital spending. We've got productivity growth at 2.5. I think we really could be looking at numbers north of 4, north of 5, north of even 6, because there's so much capital stock growth right now. Remember that the 2% number that you saw for GDP growth, the reason why it was 2% and not 4 or 5% was that we imported a record number of capital goods because we're building all these factories. Once we turn those factories on, you're going to see really growth unlike anything we've seen before.
I mean, Congressman, these are really big numbers. You know, I understand that we're going to see growth this year, but 6%, are you seeing that in Pennsylvania?
We're seeing a lot of optimism. We're seeing the CapEx investment that you hear about on your show is actually happening.
Because of data centers?
Because, well, data centers is a big part of it, but it's just manufacturing in general, because the AI also will create more quality and more effectiveness within the overall economy.
Well, that's because President Trump is getting everybody to get their supply chains to America.
That's right. We're seeing energy prices, or excuse me, energy drilling pick up. So there's a lot of good things happening. Look, we got Warsh coming in, for instance. That's an important piece of the puzzle. Everything now is going to be based upon pro-growth and private sector, rather than trying to grow the public sector, and even from a balance sheet standpoint for the Treasury, right? I mean, we're going to be pushing banks to lend as opposed to the Treasury purchasing, or excuse me, the Fed purchasing Treasury bonds. So it's a whole different approach, and it's about not trying to crush demand. It's about increasing supply, and as we increase supply, inflation comes down by definition.
Yeah.
And with this supply side focus of the president's, really the America First agenda, what Warsh can bring to it, certainly when the Iranian conflict ends, energy prices come down. We saw CPI a little high.
Yeah.
You know, core was at 2.7. So if that comes down, the idea that we're going to have more competitive interest rates for the world. Remember, we're the safest haven in the world to invest. 2, 3, 4% GDP. And what that does, too, those revenues bring down our deficits.
Well,
and our
you make
debts.
all great points. By the way, we're getting the Consumer Price Index today. We'll get the latest reading, and the expectations call for a gain of 0.6% for the month. But you mentioned Warsh, Kevin Warsh. We've got breaking news right now. The Senate will hold a vote today at 11:30 a.m. to officially confirm Kevin Warsh as the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. This after clearing a major hurdle yesterday. And, of course, it is ahead of Jay Powell's term expiring on Friday. Congressman, for a little while there, we were thinking, oh, are they going to make it? Is Kevin Warsh going to be officially, confirmed as chairman before Jay Powell's term is up on Friday? Looks like he'll make it, and he'll be the new chairman, beginning this Friday.
Well, former Chairman Powell had his day. I believe with Scott Bessent and others, it's really time for him to depart. He is sticking around, as you know, which is unprecedented. Not since Harry Truman has a former chair stayed on the Board of Governors, and that time it was invited by the president. So it's a bit controversial.
Yeah, I mean that's him saying, that's for you, Trump, right?
Look, he was controversial.
Come on, what is that about?
Warsh is taking a holistic approach, just as many of us have been stating from the very beginning, including Scott Bessent and including Donald Trump. And so a holistic view of the economy where Powell was taking, just a very narrow view until Trump came in, and then he started talking tariffs. Oh, my goodness, with these tariffs, how are we going to deal? We can't lower interest rates.
Right.
So that was completely contradictory to how he was reacting in the past. So he's done. We have someone now who understands the agenda of pro-growth, supply side, increase supply, bring down interest rates, increase the value of the dollar. All that's going to happen as well. And meanwhile, we set up new trade agreements. So the world becomes our marketplace.
What are your thoughts on all these reconciliation plans? You are doing one, a skinny bill, which the president has supported, just to fund ICE and Border Patrol. Then you've got talk of another reconciliation bill later before the midterms. What do you want in that? Do you support it?
I do. We need to do this. Unfortunately, the Democrats, of course, would shut down ICE and shut down Customs and Border Patrol, and for ridiculous reasons, political reasons. And so we're finally going to get that back opened up with the reconciliation, which is needs to happen ASAP.
It's too bad you have to use reconciliation for regular appropriations.
Sure.
I mean, this is appropriating the government.
It's a little bit embarrassing. Those on the Appropriations Committee, including very good people, can't believe it. This is relatively unprecedented. It can't go this way. And moving forward, so we do this narrow reconciliation, will happen before June 1st. But yeah, I'm all for the 3.0, as we call it, reconciliation, in that we could manage to maybe do the Save America Act. We can do some of the defense supplement. We can make Social Security and overtime and perhaps tax on tips permanent. We can make the health care accounts go directly to people as opposed to the insurance companies, which the president has stated many times. So really good stuff that America is asking for. And you know what? Unfortunately, with midterms and it coming up, I find that the Democrats are holding some of these things back just because they want premiums to go up so as they can blame it on President Trump. Sometimes I think it's that bad. So, we'd like to get their cooperation so we can actually govern for a little while as opposed to just, try to score political points.
That was a good list that you just gave us in terms of reconciliation 3. Thank you for that. Do you think you can make the Save America Act a budgetary item? Because there are rules. You've got to have it ensure that in reconciliation that you actually can show a decline in debt, right? The
so-called bird bath.
Right.
Yeah, it must be a true reconciliation of previous expenditures and budgets. And from the Voters' Rights Act, there's room in there, we believe, to create what one would think is the standard requirement of ID in order to vote.
Exactly.
And be a citizen to register.
Right, exactly. And by the way, most people want that. You don't need that anymore, Congressman.
Okay.
Sorry that your earpiece keeps popping out. We just wanted you to hear the soundbite of Kevin Hassett. It's great to have you this morning.
You too, Maria.
Thank you so much.
You're the best. I so much appreciate being here with you.
Oh, you are the best. Thank you, Congressman Dan Meuser.